Hello, and welcome to Does It Resonate With You, the thought provoking conversation show where your hosts, Angie of the ZXUH Method and John the Tarot Geek, figure out what resonates with them while encouraging you to find what resonates with you. Let's get started. There we go. Hello, hello. Angie and John here with Does It Resonate With You, where we encourage you to listen to what we have to say, take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind.
Yep.
This is a really, really cool topic. I just want to get right to it. The idea of the force and, you know, I was getting this god awful haircut, which whatever. But it looks much better when it's like this purple. Anyway, the guy, thank you very much. The guy said something about the force, and I thought to myself, you have no idea, dude. But I picked up my phone and I was like, John, what about an episode about the force? And you were all over it. So I'm like, I think this is fantastic. And I love how art imitates life.
Yeah.
And how, my only hope is that, for the world, for the planet, for the universe, that it really does. And in, the 23rd and 24th centuries, we're a little bit more like the Star Trek universe, right? Like a little more accepting.
Real conscious, conscious behavior.
Yes, a little bit more conscious would be fantastic. Although I think it's taken kind of a dark turn since Roddenberry passed. But, what are you going to do?
True.
But you still got Picard. You still have Worf, even Data. Like, they're all there. But that's Star Trek.
Yep.
We are talking Star Wars. That's two very different things.
Very different things.
So, do you remember seeing Star Wars?
I do.
I don't know how old you are. Like, I don't know how old anyone is. I saw Star Wars in the theater when it first came out.
I did too.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And I was actually a teenager, but I was late teenage, late teens.
And I was early teens. So
okay. So
a couple years different, probably. What's funny is my parents didn't really take me to movies, but my best friend's mom always took him to see movies. And so quite often I would get to go with them to see the movie. And it was such an enjoyable experience. I had seen some real unfortunate movies with them. And then I saw Star Wars. And Star Wars, they took me to see also 2001, which was life-changing. That was such an amazing movie.
Oh, yeah.
But back to Star Wars.
No, wait, that's HAL, isn't it?
HAL 9000. Yep.
Open the pod bay doors, HAL.
So, can I tell you a funny joke about that?
Sure.
My best friend's name was Dave. And he, one of the main characters in Space Odyssey 2001, the captain's name is Dave, right? And I was in my dorm room, and we were roommates. Dave came to the door, didn't have his key. He said, John, open the door, please. And I said, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. And he laughed so hard, he couldn't breathe.
Oh, my, I can just imagine. I can only imagine. I mean, that's just,
yep.
Perfect those, timing. That's like catching lightning in a bottle, right?
Exactly.
Like you save up that thing forever, just waiting for the perfect opportunity to deliver such a comment. I think I still have a box of those in my back pocket, if you will.
Sweet.
I will say, and late 70s, early 80s, there were an awful lot of discos called 2001, which I think is so funny because the other thing I remember about the 60s and 70s is that the 2000s seemed really far away.
Yeah, I remember that
we were never going to see it. And I don't know why we would think that. I mean,
there was a lot of fear.
Well, there was. There sure was.
Yeah. Like, we're going to annihilate the planet before we make that far.
Yeah, well, thank you, Revelations. But we won't go there either.
No.
I mean, there is, you're right, though. Just as a quick aside, I cannot tell you how many people said 1987, the world is going to end. 1984, the world is going to, I mean, it was those peace out hippies were all over the end of the world, and it didn't
Hmm.
have anything to do with the rapture. It didn't have anything to do with any of that. I'm not really sure what cataclysmic epic situation they thought was going to happen, that the world was going to end, but they
Yeah.
had a level of acceptance that
Yeah.
that was not available to me at that time.
Yeah.
I sometimes it would keep me up at night, like
Yeah.
those ideas.
Yep.
And
Of like we're going to annihilate our world, and we've really done it this time.
yeah, right. And the sad thing is that we're kind of there now.
I know. I know. I
Right,
was just thinking. Yep.
but anyway, let's talk about the force, because maybe if people learn to access the force a little bit, they can start undoing some of this damage.
Right.
Because I believe in the force. I believe in the force. I believe in the life force. I believe in the force. And I think it's really interesting how, so what do you, so that Star Wars had to be, what was it, like 77, right? Like it had to be.
Late 70s. Or
Yeah,
wait,
for
hang on a
sure.
sec.
I know I was working at I worked at a drive-in, which is the best job ever, I'm telling you right now.
Googling.
Yeah, 77, May 25th, 1977. Um, so the idea that a conversation about energy, the force,
Yeah.
was happening in 77 is kind of like,
That's really interesting. That's kind of like pre 5D, if I can use that term. It's
sure.
much earlier than most people were willing to, come out in the
Right.
the metaphysical. And it's so interesting that it was just kind of accepted as, yeah, that's okay, by all of society, right? When Harry Potter came out, people were up in arms over teaching kids about magic, right? But when the Force was talked about, everyone's like, yeah, all right,
So
works for me.
when did Harry Potter come out? That was the 90s, wasn't it?
Yes, yep.
So already, well, okay, this is interesting, just because I really wonder. People who had children in the 90s are the same people who were traumatized by the Disney films in the 60s and 70s.
Yes, right. That's it.
Bambi and
Perfect.
Dumbo and
Yep.
Watership Down and all of those horrible movies that should never have been shown. Do you know I've never seen Old Yeller, Dumbo, Bambi, none of them. My mother would not let me watch them.
No kidding.
She said no.
I saw Bambi.
That was none of them. I've seen none. I'm never going to see them. I have no interest. But I just can't help but wonder if there isn't some transference there. Like, oh my God, I was traumatized by this. I'm not going to let my kids be traumatized. So maybe they went too far the other way. Because
Maybe.
I feel like, to me, Star Wars was more magical. Bambi and the Hunter and all of that. That's real.
Right. Yes. It was not
like that's
fantasy. It
real.
was like, this is a story that there's a much more of a connection to reality.
Right. And so maybe that's how that slipped past. Now, when you get to the 90s, I'm thinking you're talking about traumatized parents saying, I don't want my kid to know nothing about magic. I think it's very different now. I mean, and I am aware of a whole underground of people who make magic bottles and wands and what have you.
Sure.
But let's talk about the Force.
Right. So
Because
Yoda.
I think there is some, we in researching the show, John has kind of looked at the comparisons, right? Like, what are the comparisons of the Force to kind of the way people think now? And interconnectedness is one of, I think, one of the strongest ones when it comes to the idea of the Force. And
right. You can feel it. You can participate in it from anywhere.
You can. And whenever you hear, now I don't know if I've told you this or not, but my oldest son lives across the street from me.
Yep.
Y'all probably heard that. and he parks. Well, not anymore. Their driveway got widened. So, but he used to park in my driveway. And I'd be sitting at my desk facing the computer, and there'd be like this little tingle in the back of my head. And I would turn my head and I can see through the door, and I would see he's pulling in the driveway, like connected,
Yeah.
right? Or when people say, and sometimes it's in TV shows, but they say, no, he must be okay because I would know.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
must be okay because I would
Yep.
know.
Or the whole thing about the phone, right? You're going to call someone, you pick up the phone, and as you're picking it up,
Absolutely.
it rings, and it's that person.
Oh man, and I'm telling you what, my kid, that kid, the big one, the older one, the younger one was just always telling me about what he did when he was big. Like he had some incredible stories about when he was big. But this one always knew who was on the phone. He used to freak people out because he was born in the 80s. So
Pre-caller ID.
that's not the cell phone. That's the
Nope.
phone on the wall. And he would go, "That's Carol." Or, "That's my mom."
I love that. That's
Yeah, he would do it all the time, and they'd be like, "How does this kid know who's on the phone?"
because he's tapped in.
Because he's tapped in. He's
the
not
force.
so much anymore, which I think is a shame. It is what it is. But he's got a mechanical mind. Like he can, like,
Yep.
if you ever heard me say, I can see numbers, the numbers move, like the numbers walk around and go where they belong.
Yeah.
When I'm doing math in my head, I can see them, a little.
Ooh,
And
that's
so
cool.
he sees angles and directions and things like that in very
Wow.
much the same way. So I think he's more rooted or grounded into the real world stuff, so that other stuff is.
It sounds like he's in flow though, right?
Oh yeah, he's totally in flow with who he is and who he's
That's
supposed to
cool.
be.
That's
For
cool.
real. So the force, right? So interconnectedness.
Yep.
But what about other people? People you don't know, or people. How about this? Have you ever been watching a show on TV that shows some of those like documentaries, or I think sometimes I've seen it on Curse of Oak Island, which I'm totally into, okay? But the pictures of like the bandits or the criminals, from like the 1800s or whatever. Pictures back then, the way they had to take pictures, I think they were inherently scary anyway.
True.
Because of the exposure time and all that.
Yeah.
But have you ever looked at a picture of like a murderer or something on the TV screen and been like, "Oh my God," like I feel like
I know that guy.
Oh, that too. But yeah, that's not good. But it's like you can feel their intention coming from the.
Yeah.
So is that connected? Is that the force? Is that, I think the force is anything energetically speaking that allows you to tap into information and energy and.
Yeah, it's the knowing, right?
Right. Oh, the knowing.
Yeah, interesting.
Now, some psychics I know, I can think of one in particular off the top of my head. She puts herself in what she calls the knowing field. I put myself into neutral state. Like that's where I want to be neutral. And that helps me connect to whatever I'm connecting. But she puts herself in what she calls the knowing field. So I wonder, is the knowing field the force?
I think it's part of it, but in the Star Wars myth, in the Star Wars world, the force is something that they use to both know but also do, right?
True.
There's a doing element of the force, which I think they're stretching it a little bit. They're stretching it a little further away from what we consider consciousness here.
Although I have had myself an energy ball fight or two in my time.
Okay, all right. So, I
and won, by the way, but of course I won.
Well, here's the one difference that I think is between consciousness and the force. That the soldiers, right, the Jedi, use the force to help them defeat opponents, which essentially means killing other people.
Oh, I
I
see what
think
you're
that
saying.
is that gets too far away from what I consider divine consciousness.
I agree with that. I 100% can agree with that.
Yep, that is the one thing where the Force is presented as something beyond or outside of what I consider, our consciousness here.
So, use your powers for good, not evil, right?
Right. Now, maybe you could make the argument that if you're defending yourself, that's still okay. Maybe, maybe not. But when we see like Luke and Darth Vader fighting, they're going for the they're going for the kill.
They're
Both
going for the kill. Yeah, that one.
right,
It's almost like you better get the kill shot because
because the
if you
alternative
don't,
is
the other
right.
one's gonna.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
leaving that
okay,
aside,
okay. So, I mean, you brought him into the conversation. This is the woo-woo show. Darth Vader was under the influence of something. Because remember at the end, Luke, I am your father. And he regretted, Anakin Skywalker regretted all. I mean, if you, and then if you watch the prequels and, all that, Anakin Skywalker was, he was a good, he was a force for good, right? He was good.
And the dark side.
Yeah, right. He went to the dark side. So, I mean, I guess I would say now, I don't believe this holds true on the other side, in the ethers or whatever you want to call it. But I believe that, in physical consciousness, you don't have light without dark. You got to have, like polarity.
Right.
I've heard people say, I want to transcend polarity. I don't believe you can do that as a human.
Right.
I believe you can ascend and transcend polarity, but I also believe that means death. I mean, I believe that means shedding the human shell, right? Because the polarity is the construct that your mind understands.
Yep. The other thing that Star Wars does is kind of presents the Force as the battle between good and evil, right?
Oh yeah, that is true.
And that brings it back into like the heaven and hell dichotomy that we have here, right? Yeah. And I will say that is completely outside or against what I think consciousness is.
Also.
So that element of it,
I hope so and so rots in HE double toothpicks, and then I'll say, but too bad there is no hell. No hell.
Right.
It's okay to say it.
Yeah, he'll be that'll be
too bad there isn't a hell, because I wish they would go there, right? Like, and then my religious friends hear me say something like that, and I've had people worried for me, for my immortal soul.
Sure, right.
Because I don't believe what they believe, and I'm like,
Tell you what, look me up after you're dead and we'll talk.
There you go. I love that answer. Like, I think like that's a freaking t-shirt, dude. Look me up look me up after you're dead and we'll talk. Like, beautiful. That's fantastic.
But I really, some of these people, when you have these like literal life and death disagreements over the nature of humanity, the nature of life, the nature of consciousness, you really, at the end of the day, you can really only say, we're going to know after we die, and we can talk then. Just remember this moment. Put me on your list.
Yeah, right. And I hope, I do believe, and I really hope that, because, you have the ability to some degree remember some things from the other side when you get here, when you incarnate, as evidenced by my kid telling me about when he was big. I mean, the stories.
I love that.
And the stories were just they were just too vivid for a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. The details were just such that it, he had to have seen that somewhere.
Yep.
And he's still very connected. So My hope is that when you get to the other side, you also remember all of, if you can remember everything that happened to you as a human and remember it without emotion, with only the love, I
Mhm.
think that would be amazing.
That's my understanding of what we're going to
That's
experience.
my understanding too, and I'll be honest, one of the things that turned me totally away from religion was, and I was 17 years old. My mother died when 2 weeks after I turned 16. I was 16 or 17 years old, going to a local church with all my friends, and I remember this vividly, and I even remember the minister's name, which is irrelevant, but I remember asking him, will I see my mother again when I get to heaven? Because I was still questioning whether or not I believed all of that,
Sure. Yep.
but I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew that because you didn't tell people stuff like that. All of that stuff felt flat, going door to door and witnessing, and all those things that, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I went to the altar. Like, it
Right.
felt like nothing to me. But when he looked me straight in the eye and he said, no, that's not how it works, you won't recognize each other, I thought,
See that?
I'm out. Like,
Right.
I'm out.
I don't. Yeah. That's
And to be honest with you, if that's what he believes, fine.
fine. Yep.
But you're talking to a 17-year-old girl, 16 or 17, who within the last year lost her mother
Yeah.
and was
That's sad.
traumatized by having been the one that opened the door to the police when they showed up, said she was gone.
Yeah.
Lie,
Right. Or soften it somehow.
soften it,
Yep.
something, you know.
Yep.
Well, my
For sure.
understanding is this, or whatever.
Yeah. Here's how
But
we.
there's
Here's
always,
what we
but it's
know. Here's
always
what we don't.
possible,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Right.
So,
Right.
so
You
that
know what? I think there's a lot of like religious conviction that, like, I know it's this way when they really
there
can't.
really, there really is a lot
Yeah.
of that. There really is a lot of that. So
So back to
anyway,
Darth Vader, right? Back to Darth Vader on the dark side. Um, what I found kind of interesting in Star Wars is that you could move between the dark side and the light side kind of at will. I mean, because I know Darth Vader says to Luke, "Come with me over to the side," right? And Luke's going like, "No, never," right? Um,
interesting. So what that reminds me a little bit of, and it's not quite the same because you're talking dark and light, the dark side and the light side, but have you ever watched have you ever seen a show where a character in the show is on the brink of death, right? Like, they're on the operating table and their heart has stopped.
right.
And they cut to them on the other side,
Okay. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like, and there's always like loved ones there, come with me, come with me, come
Right.
with
Right.
me. And it kind of, I mean, it kind of, when you said that, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, because I just recently saw that on a show I watched. So I'm like, well, that sounds an awful lot like that. But, this is loved ones trying to convince a person to come to heaven. So,
Right.
does it speak to a vulnerability, like at the moment you're sort of in between worlds, you
Interesting.
know? Because even when he said, come over to the dark side, come over to the dark side, Luke was in a vulnerable state, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so do you require the, like, human mind to have the fear present to keep you from doing that? And when you get to the other side, it's not there, so you're easily convinced. And then you hear somewhere in the distance somebody saying, "No, you need to stay. Come back, fight, fight." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Right. 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 There's a decision process being made in both cases. In one, am I going to stay on the light side or do I join the dark side? And in the other one is, am I going to leave my body and enter, the hereafter, or do I go back in my body and participate in life? I don't know.
and now, let me put one more thing in there before you go further. Does that speak to the idea that when you pass, you relatively quickly, um what am I trying to say? You relatively quickly lose the idea that you were human, that you are readily able to accept the idea that you are now back in the ethers or back in the, in the spirit world, whatever
Mhm.
you want to call it. So there's no, uh, does it speak to the idea that there's no disappointment or sadness at having left the world? Do you know what I mean by
I
that?
think so. I think so. It's when I've read near-death experience books and research, in almost every case, it's like, well, you have a decision. You can go back and participate in life, or you can come here. And there's pros and cons to, I'm thinking of Anita Morjani.
I was just thinking that you might be.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, and but it's just this or that. It's
right.
not,
No judgment.
there's no judgment that, right. There's no emotion
Right. Yep. It was
because there's
very,
no fear, because the fear doesn't exist
yeah,
there.
that's right.
The
There's no fear.
fear
Yep.
can't, oh my gosh, the fear can't exist in a state of pure love.
Right.
Fear is the polarity of love.
Interesting. That is exactly
Fear
100% right.
cannot exist in the pure
Yep.
state of, in the state of pure love.
Now let's take it over back to that other dichotomy of the dark side and the light side. It's all about fear,
It is totally all about fear.
right?
It's
Luke,
totally all
Luke
about
is
fear.
is terrified of being, on the dark side, associated with the dark side. I must be on the light side. I have to stand, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
right. So
So, that's really an interesting,
contrast.
catch 22, contrast, rock in a hard place, juxtaposition, whatever words you want to use,
Hmm.
because you want to stay on the light side, but the harder you fight to stay on the light side, you use maybe tactics and techniques that really belong to the dark side in the,
Yeah. Right.
um in the story of trying to be in the light. That's a little bit like, a little bit like religious persecution, right? Like like these
Right.
wars and things in the name of the
Oh,
Lord, and
yes, the
I mean,
Crusades. Right, the
it's
Crusades.
a little bit like that. So
Yeah,
that's
interesting.
interesting.
Yep.
That is interesting. I mean, it is. There's one final on this particular thought. Uh, it's interconnectedness, and it says this idea suggests that we are all part of a larger whole, connected through a shared energy or consciousness.
Yep.
So I believe that to be true, but I also believe that one of the reasons that we come here and incarnate as humans is to experience edges, right? Individuality.
Yes.
So while there are, I've heard people say, individuality is a hoax, or it's a, you know what I mean, it's not true,
Right.
it's
We
not the
are all
truth, or
one.
whatever.
Yep.
We are all one. I believe we are all one, but I believe that our physical bodies are not all one. I believe that the laws of physics prevail, right?
We are in a separate body, while our spirits, our souls are interconnected.
Right.
And we come here, to your point, we come here because we want to experience that
Right,
that
because
that cool thing that you can't do on the other
you
side.
can't do on the other side. And this goes, I think I've said this before, the conversation, why am I here? What am I doing here? Why am I here? That was never what I wanted to know. What I wanted to know was, why is here?
Right. Oh,
Right?
wow.
What is
That,
the point of here? Like,
right.
and so when in my studies, this person said, we come here to experience individuality, I was like, ding, ding, ding. That's it for me. That's
Right.
it for me. We are, it here is here as, shall we say, a playground or a vacation, or,
Yep. And I think it's also an artist studio.
now,
I
see, I love that.
I think one of the reasons we incarnate is to be able to create stuff.
I think that is amazing. And that book, the woman that wrote Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth, Gilbert.
Yes.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Gilbert sounds right.
What is the Big Magic? The book is called The Big Magic, I believe. The Big Magic.
Yes, Elizabeth Gilbert.
Creative
You're right.
Living Beyond
Yep.
Fear.
Yep. It's Elizabeth Gilbert.
Okay, excellent. So that's just another one of the books that I've read about the first, I don't know, maybe half of. That's how I roll.
Yeah, you get halfway through and you're good.
And I'm good. I got the information I need. But the way she puts it is that the sparks, the ideas, the sparks are all out there for the taking. So that really supports your idea that we come here to create, right? And so if you think about, we come here, we're individuals, we're in this human container, and we are limited to some degree by the physiology of it, the human brain, the neuroscience and all that, which, I mean, there are people who really study neuroscience, and if they do, that's fantastic. That's just too much work for me.
Indeed.
But if you need it, if you are overwhelmed or filled with trauma or things like that, it's really important for you to have that. I don't need it personally. But so if you sit and pay attention, you got an idea, you take that idea, you create, you bring that idea into the world, then that's the creativity, that's the creation, right?
Yep.
And she goes further, discussing fear and all that. But what's interesting to me is how she explains two people writing like the similar story at the same time, or things like that. Or like, wait a minute, hey, that was my idea.
Right? Yes. Two
right?
inventors that invent the same thing at the same time in different parts of the world.
Right, exactly. And what it is the ideas are out there, the if you will, in creative bubbles. I don't know if I'm explaining exactly the way she does in the book, but it is a fascinating book, and I think you would really enjoy it.
You're right, I would.
I know you would really enjoy it. But that it just so happened that there were two versions of that idea floating around, waiting for people to pick up on them, and two people did, and two people executed it.
Yep.
Very much like, oh, that was my idea, but you took the idea, you didn't do anything with it, so it just moved on and went and found another source.
Interesting.
So it's really a fascinating concept, and it really speaks to A, your idea that we come here to be creative, and B, that it is a part of the force, right? Like a part of that energetic,
I believe the force that we're talking about, the consciousness force, is also, it has an element of a creativeness to it. And I don't think that's represented in the Star Wars version.
No, but it was written in 1977. So,
well, they were created back then. I would have thought.
Although it was creative in its own right? Yeah. Like there were a lot of it was revolutionary back then. So, but there is Star Wars, but we are a spiritual, metaphysical show, so I think it's good to combine the two.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so yeah, like, and I think that if we were all more tapped into our creative spirit, our creative side, looking at it from the perspective of chakras, you're tapped into your creative side, the sacral chakra. Well, that's all about also the sweetness of life and where light lives, and it's also sexuality and joyful, all kind of light and bright and joyful, creative situations, creation, recreation, all of that. And if everybody was more creative, whatever that looked like for them, because this society has put labels on people creating things that don't look like society says they should look, right? We should be creating for the sake of creating.
Right. So the dabbler in painting is just as creative as the masterpiece.
There you go.
Yep.
And there is an audience for both, right?
Right.
Because there is a mind that is soothed by the masterpiece because of its order and its form. And then there's a mind that is soothed by the dabbler because of its chaos and its colors. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
so there's an audience for everything.
Yeah.
It's just
Even
a
if that
matter of
audience is
figuring
just
out,
you.
even if it's just you.
Yep.
Or your husband who says, well, oh, that's really something. I think I see where you're going with that.
Funny, I've
Anyway.
experienced that. Yes.
Look at this. I mean, halfway through the show already.
I
Time for
know.
the shameless plug. So, John, how close are you to your book being released?
Well, it is over at Balboa right now. I am in the process. There's a few things I want to get for the cover. I want to get some endorsements for the cover. I also had a conversation with the book marketing person, and I will say that writing the book and creating the book can be done fairly inexpensively. Marketing the book cannot. So
Yeah.
that is a big deal. And if you just want to write the book and be done with it, then so be it. If you actually want to get people to know about it, you got to put some money behind it. So that is the conversation that's happening right now. And it is.
Well, my hope would be, this would be my hope, that if you're working with a marketing team, that it would be people that would say, great, let's market this because it's ready and there is a market for it, and let's help you, and we're going to take your money and we're going to market it, but it's going to work because it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's garbage out there.
Indeed.
I would hope a marketing team would say, you know what, this is not going to fly.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're working with somebody who is confident in their work, they're going to want to make sure that whatever it is they're delivering for you.
Yep. She said with almost everyone, I mean, she's been doing this for, I don't know, 10 years or something, like a long time. She said every author that she's worked with, except for the rare few, every author made back their initial investment and then some.
Hey.
And some of them went on to, do extremely well with marketing their own self-published book. She said the ones that failed in doing that were the ones that just said, I don't want to do anything with marketing at all. Just we'll pay for it and see what happens. And she says, yeah.
They don't go anywhere.
They don't go anywhere. Right. So I'm confident whatever I put into it, I'm going to get back in.
Right. So you would, I mean, like if you were an influencer and you self-published a book, then you've got a market.
Absolutely.
Right. So yeah, that makes sense. Oh, see, that means we need to start working on it. Does it resonate with you book now while we're building the audience?
Oh my gosh.
So by the time the book is done, we have the audience to market it to.
Holy cow.
I just spilled the whole idea on the show. Oh my gosh. Okay, folks, you heard it here first. There's going to be a Does It Resonate With You book. We're going to have to do a lot of planning.
Have I got something for you?
Okay, well, we'll do that.
We'll do it later, but
we'll do it off the show.
WooWooBook.com. That's the URL for my book. Sign up, get your free chapter, get on the list, and help me spread the word.
Excellent. Oh, how exciting. Okay, so I am going to plug, I'm doing another collaboration with an amazing woman called Joni Light. It's going to be, so I have on Friday, that will be tonight because we air on Fridays. I have my Kyle Gray deck session, but on Friday the 28th, I'm doing a collaboration with Joni Light, and it is what she calls a timeline journey. And this is all about finding limiting beliefs and finding out where on your personal timeline they exist and going back to their origination and doing some healing and clearing work to help you clear these limiting beliefs that are keeping you from aligning with your path and purpose. So she has come up with this method for herself, And as soon as I heard her speak, I said, oh, this is perfect for doing
Totally in
with
alignment with
energetic
yours.
support,
Yep.
right? Like, you know me, I got to throw energy after. I mean, got a problem, throw energy at it, right? Like,
Sweet.
so that's what it's all about. So that is on my page, Angie ZXUH on Facebook, which I think I'm going to change the name of, but it'll still be Angie ZXUH, but it'll, whatever. You don't need to hear all that. Or angiezxuh.com under group events and special and group events. It is called Timeline Journey with Joni Light.
Cool.
And it's going to be really, I think it's going to be really great. So there you go. So we'll talk about that later. Let's take this off. Look, I mean, look, we've got 5 subjects and we only got to 1. and the show is almost over.
Right.
Like crazy. So let's blast through this a little quickly. So universal energy. So the Force in Star Wars is often portrayed as a universal energy field that can be tapped into and harnessed by those with a strong connection to it. That's a good point right there. Similarly, some spiritual beliefs suggest that our souls or consciousness are connected to a universal energy source that we can access and utilize in various ways, such as through meditation or spiritual practices.
Right.
And so this is that's a pretty big, pretty good parallel, I think, right there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so obvious to us, right? It's almost not even worth debating because it's like, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's right. It's not. I mean, it's not worth debating. I think if you can tap into that universal energy field.
Yep. Practice.
That's it. It's like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, right?
Practice.
And I'm just going to say it again because it's so much part of what I teach. Intuition is how you connect to, receive, and interpret energy. The Force is an energy field. The Force, whatever you want to call it, universal energy, it's an energy field. So if you learn to connect to and receive and interpret energy in a way that your human mind can understand, then you are a powerful psychic. Period. Like, that's all it is.
Like the definition.
It completely.
Sweet.
So, but the problem is there's so many people out there that want to tell you how it works or tell you how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Instead of giving you permission to say, okay, well, that's how it works for me, but it might not work that way for you. You have to try it and see what does.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had a teacher that insisted, oh, when you do energy work, your hands get hot. Well, mine don't. They get cold. They used to get hot. I didn't like it. I said, I don't like it when my hands get hot. I would like them to get cold. Now they get cold. So,
right.
You know,
you just had to like change some wiring.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Also, when I was working on people, you know, and clearing a lot of energy, my nose would run. And I said, this is very inconvenient. I do not like it. So now instead I laugh. Okay, I'm good with that. You know, because I mean, your nose running while you're working on somebody is damned inconvenient.
Yep.
So, I mean, you have the capability to make this look like what you want it to look like. You have to believe it, right? So this universal energy, as it flows through your filter is the problem, right? If your filter is mucked up with fear consciousness, judgment, assumptions, you're never going to get the right answers. You just aren't. So that's, I think, enough on universal energy. All right. So inner guidance. So what does it say about inner guidance?
Yeah, so the Star Wars characters often rely on the Force to guide them and provide intuitive insights. And same with us. Similarly, we believe that our souls or consciousness can serve as a source or inner guidance and wisdom. So, you know.
And as himself is standing behind me with his hands on his hips like this, like
hello.
Excuse me. That's really part of one of the things that I can do that I really enjoy is introducing people to that sort of team.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last week. Teachers guides and
right.
And
it was, that was great fun and such an honor to be able to introduce you in that way.
Yeah.
To some of those folks. So, I think for me, what I see is that you have these uh, energies, beings, whatever you want to call them, who are here to guide you and help you. But there's also another piece, the thing that they call higher wisdom or higher self,
Okay.
which I think is a way for you to tap on the knowledge of your soul. So,
Right.
in other words, as you move from lifetime to lifetime, you gather this like wisdom and knowledge. And if you develop a strong connection with your high heart and your higher self, it's like a, what do they call that? A guidance system, right?
Yeah.
Like a navigator,
Yep.
like actually everybody's got a navigator guide, which I run across from time to time when I'm working with people. Um, and if you develop this guidance system and work with these navigators that you have available to you, you find yourself saying so much less saying, I should have went with my first instinct, or I knew that was going to happen. Why didn't I?
Right.
You know,
Right.
because you start using your own connections and your own inner guidance to avoid or to act in a way that is in alignment with what it is you're trying to create.
You actually
And
listen to your intuition.
right. So I think this is a great place to add can it or why can't your inner guidance, why can't a psychic get the lottery numbers?
Well, I'm
Because
going to
they
go
can't.
back to
I
the
believe firmly that they can't, or every psychic on the planet would be
right
rich.
bazillionaires. Um, I think it's because if you're using your gifts to help others, then they come through clearly. And if you use it for selfish gain, it's stopped.
But what if you have a list? What if you have a list of what you're going to do with that money? And it really involves as much, if not more, altruistic work than. So what
So
about this? How about this? Let's just throw this out there because we're gonna toss this in as another episode. The ESP. Is it like trying to connect to the Zener cards?
there's no
Trying to get
why.
those numbers.
Yeah.
The numbers are random. Is there something to actually connect to? Let's start there. Or because those numbers are generated in the way that they're generated with those balls popping around in the whatever you call that thing, the machine, is it just so random that you can't connect to the energy of it and get the numbers?
Well, I'm I'm going to pull in something I read.
Of course, he read something.
Right. Okay. So the guy that created the Silva mind control method, his name is
Okay,
Jose Silva.
right.
Um, he once won $10,000 in the lottery because he received the numbers in a dream.
Hmm.
And I
Okay.
also read that his assistant is either his assistant or employee or someone that worked directly with him won the lottery like numerous times because she was so tuned in to spirit, which is what Silva mind control method is. It's very much an
Yeah,
intuition.
so the Silva method, a lot of work I do has got roots in the Silva method.
Cool. Yeah.
There's a lot of things I do that has roots in Silva for
Okay.
sure. So
So
here is another thing, and another piece of the puzzle to toss after this one. Interesting to me that he got the lottery numbers and it was $10,000. But although I don't know, like when was he alive? Maybe that was a huge prize.
60s, 1960s. So it was quite a
Okay.
bit of money. The equivalent now would be 100,000.
Okay, which is still, but I don't know how long the lottery's been around. But this is what I'm going to put out there. If in fact you're going to connect to the lottery numbers in a way that would allow you to win the lottery, does it need to be in alignment for you to win that money? In other
Oh, for your
words,
greater purpose.
right. So, and I'm here to tell you right now, it is not in alignment for most people to win that much money because they don't have an understanding of what that looks like.
Yep.
If you ask somebody what happens if you win the lottery, what do they say?
I quit my job. Yep.
And that's it. But they never say, I quit my job so I can work a full-time job to manage all this money that I'm going to win,
Right.
which is what it is. Because if you don't manage the money, right, and you let somebody else manage it for you, what happens to it?
Bye-bye.
Right? So I wonder if that's not a part of it. So, and then there's the concept of manifesting, right? Like they say, if you want to manifest $1 million, you don't start by saying, I want $1 million. You start by saying, I'd like to manifest $100. And then from $100, then you expand. Or if you want to manifest a new car, you start by manifesting a bike. And then, once you've connected to that energy, then you move, you know what I mean? Move further.
Yeah.
So, because I think going from 0 to 60 is tough.
Right.
So I wonder if that's not more to the point.
Yeah. Or
does the force even care if you win the damn money?
I also wonder if, because there are varying levels of mediumship and psychic ability, what if that sort of thing is really reserved from the very, 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 very most skilled psychics?
And if they're very, very most skilled, it means that they practice. Right? Like, and I will say, and I won't drop any names, of course, but I had somebody that I used to work with. She was very angry. She was angry at her guides because she asked her guides, can you give me the lottery numbers? And they said yes. She got a yes. So she said, give me the lottery numbers. So she got what she believed to be the lottery numbers, and naturally they didn't win. And I thought to myself, okay, well, there's a few things here. First of all, I don't think that's an appropriate question to ask your guides. Like, I don't think that's their gig, right?
Right.
But she was mad because she asked the guides, can you give me the lottery numbers? And she got a yes. Now, did she say, can you give me the lottery numbers for Wednesday, July 19th, 2023 for the Powerball? Or did she just say, can you give me the lottery numbers? Because, there's that whole thing.
Right. Ask the right question.
Ask the right questions, right? Like, that's a big deal. So, I mean, I don't know. I think in the grand scheme of things, because, once again, we are like pretty much out of time. These conversations are amazing.
We should ask Val about that.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting to see what she thinks about that. I'm sure we've talked about that. Val and I talk about all kinds of crazy things. But, yeah. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, does it give you some comfort to know that there's something like the force out there supporting you, rooting for you, cheering you on, that wants the best for you? Like if you listen to these manifesting teachers, they're all like, the universe wants the best for you. The universe wants you to have love. The universe wants you to be happy. And the universe wants you to have what you want. So be careful what you focus on, right? Does that comfort you?
Yes, I found that to be enormously comforting. The fact that, sometimes, it came from a religious background. Sometimes you get this idea of this God that's up there that is going to reward people for good and punish them for bad. And there's never really the indication that he's got your back, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. And when, because the punishment and judgment part is what I don't quite believe in anymore. When studying metaphysics and the woo-woo part of life, realizing that your guides and your angels got your back. That's like, wow.
I mean, and
I'll be fine.
right. And every person I've ever worked with, every single person literally has an angel on their 6. Everyone has a guardian angel
Literally
in
got your
my
back.
literally right, got your back, literally on their 6. Like that, I find them always when I organize the energies around people on that wheel that I use. The guardian angel is always, always, always at 6 o'clock.
That's
Always has your
amazing.
back.
Wow.
Every single person. So they do have your back, and they do want the best for you, and they do love you. And if you could just let go and believe it,
Yeah.
things would
Life would be
get
so
easier.
much easier.
They just would. They
Right.
just would. Can I guarantee that life will completely turn around? Of course not.
No,
I mean,
but it goes from I gotta figure this out to the universe has my back.
right. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge change in how you approach things.
Yes.
Wow.
So I guess I'm going to take 1 second for another just little plug on my YouTube channel, Angie's the XUH. Today I posted my video and I refreshed my financial freedom grid. And that is my way of connecting to the universe has our back. This is not about abundance or becoming a millionaire. This is financial freedom. This is things that we need are available to us when we need them. So this is, I manifest other things separately from this, but check that out if you're interested in the grid or the concepts of it. I think that you probably will enjoy that. So
cool.
Now it is, what is it? Tarot
time. All right.
Is it a queen of something? Because that would be really awesome.
No. What's really funny though. My own card for the day was the Queen of Swords, which we haven't done yet.
Oh.
That popped up this morning. And I mistakenly thought that we had already done that one. So I decided I'll pull another card. I pulled 3 more cards. They were all cards we had already done. I'm like, are we in review mode here?
Yeah.
And I pulled 1 more card. So the card I pulled was the Hermit. But it's so funny that you mentioned that, did we get a queen? And now that I'm looking, when I went to look back, I realized, oh, we haven't done that queen yet. So yes, we had a queen, but I put her back in the box.
Well, and there was a queen that we decided was my significator.
Yes.
And it's really funny because I got the Hermit card in a reading not all that long ago. Not for myself. Somebody was reading for me. But, the first words out of my mouth are, I'm married to a hermit. And it comes from a family of hermits. And this is the truth.
Right.
Like, they would literally be hermits if they could be.
That is today's card.
And what I found out is that astrologically, the Hermit relates to Virgo. And he is a Virgo.
Oh, that's cool.
So I don't know if that's, I don't know.
Significant.
Not the rest of his family is not, but he's legit. So
sweet.
Anyway, so the Hermit. So we get the Hermit card.
Yep. The Hermit card is the guru, right? And in the traditional sense of that word, it is the sacred aloneness is the word I like to use. It's the aloneness to find your inner guidance, your inner wisdom, contemplation. So, today we talked about connecting with the other side and your own inner guidance. That's one of the things that the Force is. So the Guru is kind of like the Force card.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's very ironic that that we pulled that card, but it's not ironic at all. That's just how the world works.
You literally can't make this stuff up,
right?
Like,
so the when you get the Hermit card, you're going to think your soul purpose and your wisdom springs from this energy of sacred aloneness. So sometimes if what I'm trying to do now is give kind of the main meaning, and then there's always the shadow side. If you take it too far to the shadow, then you get withdrawal and loneliness, right?
Right.
That's on the shadow side. But on the positive side, it's inner guidance, it's inner wisdom, it's the guru up on the mountain, and he's up there to meditate and to really find his own inner wisdom. If you get the guru, when I do readings, the guru for me means seek the answer inside. It's already there. You already know the answer. It's already going to come to you. Likewise, I read this in one of my favorite tarot books. Your search for inner healing does not mean you are not already healed. So that,
interesting.
Right? That inner guidance doesn't mean like I'm lost and I'm finding my guidance. It means you already kind of know what the guidance is guiding you toward. Just lean into that and feel it more fully. If you were to embody the guru or the hermit, it would be sit somewhere and get your thoughts in order. Seek that inner guidance. And I always like to use the mantra from Chris Ann's deck. Her mantra for this card is inner sage, inner mentor, inner guide. Show me my brightest light so that I may see with all my heart.
So asking a question about something you're working on, this is literally go sit down and meditate.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Find your intuition. Your inner guru will show you the answer to your question.
Wow. Amazing. When we're all said and done, I think we're all gonna be able to do much better readings with the tarot deck. I'm starting to see the patterns now.
Cool.
I'm starting to see the patterns as they're coming across. How much I remember, that's another story.
Well, if it's memorizing, no. If it's kind of leaning into the structure and just kind of knowing the structure intuitively, you're gonna. I mean, it's gonna get better and better.
That's I mean, it can't help it, right? So
right.
Amazing. All right. Well, here we go. Another show in the bucket. Like it's just amazing.
This was a good one. I'm glad we did this.
I honestly don't even know what episode this was. Do you?
I believe it is. I think it's 27.
Yeah. Wow.
I can tell you in just a minute, though. Oh, this is 28. Episode 28.
Wow. Well, there you go. Episode 28 in the can, so to speak. So thank you so much. Like, this is so much. I just enjoy this so much, and I look forward to it so much.
Me too.
These conversations are, give us each a little way to expand our thinking and stretch
and affirm too. I love the affirmations we come out of from these.
Absolutely. So, well, folks, as we are at the end of another show, please don't forget to reach down and subscribe. If you listened all the way to the end with us, we really, really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Subscribe, share. Please share with your friends. We're still hovering in that sort of 50s thing, and we'd really like to get to 100 subscribers.
Everybody bring one subscriber, okay? Just everybody bring one, then we're at 100.
Yeah, just one, right? That's all we need, just one. So amazing. All right, well, that's it for today. Next week, we are going to talk about ESP.
Mm-hmm.
So like the traditional idea of extrasensory perception and what that kind of looked like and all that. So that's going to be a fun conversation too. And, bring along a little paper and a notepad, because I think we might be, doing some exercise that you'll think are kind of fun. Anyway, that's it. That's it for me. That's it for John. We're out of here, but we will see you next week. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to Does It Resonate With You? The thought-provoking conversation show with your hosts, Angie of the ZXUH Method and John the Tarot Geek. please help us out by clicking the subscribe button here on the YouTube channel. We appreciate your support.